Welcome to Revive Ministries Podcast. This month, when this comes out, will be a new year, 2023. A lot of times we have these goals and resolutions, but it's also maybe even a time for a new chapter, and that can be scary at times. Today, we have a new speaker who's going to be, new guest joining us to share his insight. Thank you. I'm going to probably mess up your name, but Sanjib, how do you say your first
Yes,
name? Sanjib?
yes, Sanjib Nandi.
Sanjib Nandi. Thank you so much for joining us. I just want to leave a disclaimer for those who are listening in the States. Um, 988 is a suicide crisis lifeline, but if you're around the world, wherever you're listening from, find what resources work. I don't, working in the mental health field, I don't reinvent the wheel. So, what works for you, what's positive, I do encourage you to continue doing that. Sanjay, a lot of times I know people say it better than I do. So, I'm going to start out with a quote like a lot of people know. It's a Lao Tzu. He says, "New beginnings are often disguised as painful endings." What comes to mind when you hear this quote?
Robert, we have to start at some point in our life. And if we associate our situation with pain, then
Mm,
only we can start a new beginning.
yeah.
Because until and unless we associate, if you are an alcoholic or if you are going through a crisis, and if you associate that this is a painful situation, and if you see a life or a future which is pretty or beautiful, then only you can change it.
It's, you mentioned, alcoholism, and, a lot of times when someone makes a change in that chapter of life, it affects the family. The home becomes a lot of times more healthier. If a person who's struggling with alcohol use, or when you fix, a lot of times when someone takes that new step forward in their chapter, start a new chapter in their life, it impacts the one who's around them, especially if it's a positive thing, positively. And so I think that sometimes is not considered when we're thinking about, we do impact each other more than we'd like to admit. So,
Oh, yes, yes, definitely.
Albert Einstein, I love how he says it this way. He says, "No problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it." What comes to mind when you hear this?
Thank you, Robert. First of all, I would like to compliment you on your choice of quote, especially this quote, because this is so true and profound. Because until and unless we are able to change our level of consciousness, we cannot change ourselves. And I see so many people struggling in their life to start a new beginning.
Mm,
And when they are not able to change their level of consciousness in that pain and suffering, they cannot change themselves. And as Viktor Frankl, wrote in his book Man's Search for Meaning, that suffering fills the human soul and conscious mind completely and evenly. Does not matter whether the suffering is small or big. So the question is, how do we change this level of consciousness, or how can we change our state of mind? So let me start with the story of Paul Kalanithi. He was a neurosurgeon and on
mm,
the verge of completing a decade's worth of training as a neurosurgeon. He was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. So one day he was a doctor treating the dying, and the next day he was a patient surviving to live. And just like that, the life his wife and he imagined evaporated. And here's the same question: what makes life meaningful in this pain and suffering?
mm,
And when I was suffering in my life from 2013 to 2016, because of the circumstances beyond my control, I don't know what to do with my life.
mm,
I was filled with fear, pain, anger, resentment.
mm,
I was going downhill each passing day. I was thinking, somebody or something, or at least God will help me.
mm,
And I was in that state on and off for 3 long years.
mm,
And by the end of 2016, I was sinking deeper and deeper. And I knew that I have to do something in my life to change the outcome. And I have reached the rock bottom or the nadir of my life. And I
Mm.
will not let my worst enemy to be in that situation. And I have the same question, that what makes life meaningful and virtuous in this pain and suffering? And I can relate to so many people out there who might be struggling because of financial issues, or because of marriage issues, or because of employment issues, or it can be anxiety, depression, or mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have been there and I have seen the lowest point in my life. And I
Mm.
can tell you one thing, when we are faced with a difficult situation, whether it's a physical pain, mental pain, or we are trying to start a new life, we always think that we cannot navigate this difficult situation.
Mm.
We kind of get frustrated and depressed. But
Mm.
in reality, you have an opportunity and a challenge.
Mm.
Why opportunity? Because you are at the rock bottom. You can, start your life fresh from that rock bottom, and you can create, anything, because as quantum physics says, you can, create any possibilities from there.
Mm.
And why challenge? Because it is going to be hard. It will take everything what you got, but it is a possibility, and you can change your life upside down.
Mm.
And I can say through my own personal experience, as Steve Jobs has said, that you can connect the dots looking back.
Mm.
And when I was faced with that situation, when I look today, that I have changed so many things in my life, which was never a possibility before.
Mm.
Today I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I am an entrepreneur, I'm a YouTuber, I have written 15 songs in Spotify, and my first song, which was Rise from the Ashes, I wanted to, just recite few of the lines.
Mm.
I will rise one last time from my ashes. It's the time that I rise from my ashes. I
Mm.
was filled many times in sorrows and darkness, but I came back each time, again and again from that, depression. So,
Mm.
this is always a possibility for every human being. You can change your life, and you can become better at any field and start a new beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
when I was
when I was
listening to your story, and just part of what comes to mind is, I'm in the church sometimes as a leader, and one thing I always was thought was weird, that no one asked why they're there. Why do you come here? It's funny because if you don't know who you are, why you do what you do, the world will tell you what you are and what you're going to do. Sometimes we kind of outsource, I would say, outsource what we want to, what our new chapter. Our new chapter is ours. It's ours, what we choose to do. We kind of outsource our choices. I feel sometimes um, convenience is a lot of times marketed, nowadays. So like, and you're on vacation, convenience. It's but at the same time, I feel it's the danger when you start doing that in your own personal life, in your personal choices. You're the best person who knows who you are. I think Nicole Saban said this way: "No problem can be solved." Oh no, is this? No, this is not this one. It's this one right here. Sometimes the hardest part isn't letting go, because I think a lot of us understand the idea of letting go, but rather learning to start over. I think we gonna get in this cycle. I'm letting go of this, but it's more about the correctness. We know it's wrong. We understand. We know why it's wrong, but we don't really understand how it matters to us today, because we don't take the time to know what's important to us. And I love what you said, because it's it's in the mental health field, we'll say it's client centered, but it's your choice of
yes.
where you go, you know. And I feel like my limitations, I know my limitations well. And for me, that makes me feel freer, You get what I'm saying? Because I don't have that fluff of worrying about this. I know what I'm good at. I try to be better, but I don't get stuck there because reality makes me realize that um, we are not a jack of all trades, master of none. We are people who are passionate and want to do something that's important for us. Only way we know that is if we take time to know what we want and what's a priority for us. So I really
Yes,
appreciate what you say.
yes,
um,
definitely.
why do you? I'm going to ask you a question on this thing. Why do you feel sometimes it's hard for us to start over, even if what was previous was less healthy for us?
So it's a great question. And the main reason, I will give you the main reason.
Mm-hmm.
Fear is the main reason which is stopping us from doing bigger things in our life.
Mm-hmm.
And as you have heard the quote that the devil which we know is better than the devil which we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So we stay in unhealthy relationship. We do the job which we don't like it. We live in toxic environment because we know what is happening there rather than changing.
Yeah.
And what does fear do? Fear leads to doubt, and doubt leads to indecision, which
Mm-hmm.
eventually leads to anxiety and depression. And what does fear do to our brain? Fear paralyzes the neocortex, which is the thinking and reasoning part of the brain, and it
Mm-hmm.
hijacks the amygdala, the emotional part of the brain. Fear not only causes havoc in the mind, but also in the body by releasing stress hormone.
Mm-hmm.
And when these stress hormone is released, Robert, what it causes? It decreases your immunity.
Mm-hmm.
And as you might be aware that we go through 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day.
Mm-hmm.
And 90% of these thoughts are the same as day before. And
Yeah.
most of these thoughts are negative.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are faced with a difficult situation, we rewind and replay the same negative thoughts over and over and cripples our life in that process. And
Mm-hmm.
we are not able to think bigger than the situation. And that is the reason we are not able to start a new chapter in our life. We kind of, become stagnant in
Mm-hmm.
that same situation because of fear, because of uncertainty,
Mm-hmm.
and we start living a life which is not happy, healthy, and successful.
I guess a sub topic to fear I've noticed recently, especially, no, not recently, but I've noticed through time was loneliness. Loneliness, like, is insidious, especially it kind of attaches to fear. It's the idea that, and sometimes, like you said, I look at a person's urgency, I have to, like, if there's nothing, things could be measurable. You want to get into a healthy relationship. You understand this takes time, but the urgency is high, and the realistic approach to it is not measured. A lot of times, you get discouraged, and then you feel lonely, and then kind of compounds the fear, and then you make decisions despite being in a toxic relationship because you're feared, like, no one will like me, no one cares about me, I am lonely. You're around 200 people, you're still lonely, the fear about it is sometimes we're our own worst enemy. We're our own worst enemy. We're right there. There might be someone who wants to know us or get to know us, but we wouldn't have room for them because of all this, and that is the tragicness. So I feel like with fear is a big component, but there's subtopics. And what I've noticed, well, what's have been in the forefront of my mind is loneliness, because we're getting worse. Well, I've seen people having a harder time communicating. We have all these platforms to communicate, and we do it badly. I only a few people that I could talk to and feel like they're there, not super busy doing 15 other things and talking to me. I'll tell you one thing, I'm just not impressed when it comes to being super busy. For me, I learned I do my best work when I slow down. A lot of times we're just like too urgent. Well, that's at least my take on the same question. Moving on, kind of piggybacking on that, what habits have you seen that have been helpful for those starting a new chapter, and what have not been helpful? I know it's kind of the same question, but I think I want to hear your perspective, and yeah, go ahead.
So before diving deep into the habits, what habits has helped me, let me tell you, two other things which might help, your listeners to start a new chapter in their life. The first is, have a goal.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a small goal or it can be a big goal. It does not matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in one point, in my life, I have a small goal, like, I wanted to run a mile with my son.
Mm-hmm.
And it might sound weird, but in 40 years of my life, I never ran a mile.
Mm-hmm.
And once I ran that first mile, I think of running a 5 mile.
Mm-hmm.
And once I have done it, I ran a half marathon and a full marathon. So
Mm-hmm.
you can see that, one small thing can lead you to different bigger things in your life. So it
Mm-hmm.
will propel you to, start thinking bigger and bigger each and every single day. So,
Mm-hmm.
have a goal. Does not matter, what kind of goal it is.
Mm-hmm.
So the second thing which I wanted to point is, improve your self-talk. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we talk very negatively with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we say to ourselves, I'm not good at this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not good at maths. I'm a middle class person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm poor, those kind of things. And when we start repeating those things, it becomes a reality,
Mm-hmm.
because our subconscious mind is more powerful than the conscious mind. And
Mm-hmm.
how can you improve your self-talk? By having, affirmation, by visualization technique. You can improve your self-talk, which will, direct you towards a happy and a healthy life.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two things which might help, some of your listeners to, start a new chapter. Now, coming back to the habits, like, what kind of habits I used to change my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it can be different for every other person. Like, I used meditation. The
Mm-hmm.
second thing which I use is exercise. And the third thing which I use is cold showers.
Mm-hmm.
And just to clear the misconception about meditation, that it is related to Hinduism or it is related to Buddhism, it has nothing to do with religion.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation is just a form of mental exercise tailored specifically for your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can be an artist, you can be a professor, you can be a student, you can be an executive. You need concentration or focus to achieve that goal. And if you
Mm-hmm.
cannot concentrate, there is nothing which you can achieve it. And when we go to school, nobody teaches us how to concentrate. And
Mm-hmm.
that is the greatest skill which we need in this present generation to achieve our dreams and goal and to start a new chapter. Because we are so much distracted, especially because of our phone nowadays, but there are so many other distractions at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So, just to clear that misconception that, meditation is basically to improve your focus and concentration. It has nothing to do with religion. And there are definitely scientific benefits which I have written in my book, The Man with Zero Talent, that, how it changes our brain.
Mm-hmm.
Because to change is to change our brain.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you change your brain? There are different techniques, but meditation, I will just point out few things. Like, it increases the thickness between the left and the right brain. And
Mm-hmm.
once it increases the thickness, what it does, that you become whole brainers. Your thinking ability, your reasoning ability, and your analytical ability and your creativity increases.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is, it decreases the size of amygdala, which is the fear center.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have less fear, you can try different new things in life. Because fear is the main reason which is stopping us from doing bigger things in our life. And
Mm-hmm.
the third thing is, it decreases the hippocampus, which is our learning and memory center. If we are able to retain more information, we become much better in our life.
Mm-hmm.
These are the changes which can has been scientifically proven. The second thing, which I, implemented in my daily habits or routine is exercise.
Mm.
As you know that when we do any kind of exercise, it can be, walking, it can be jogging, it can be swimming, it can be, bicycling. It releases, certain chemicals in our brain, and there is so many chemical reaction which is happening in the body. Like it releases dopamine, it releases endorphins, and it releases GABA receptors, which will make you happy.
Mm.
And Harvard, University has proven that, walking just 20 minutes a day decreases your cardiovascular disease by 52%, which is a huge amount.
Mm.
Third thing, which I have implemented is cold showers.
Mm.
Like, what does cold showers do? It gives, a little bit of amount of stress in our body when we do cold showers, but you have to, keep your mind present in that moment. And
Mm-hmm.
once you are, out of that shower, you feel so refreshed, you are more energetic, and, you can concentrate on your work, in a highlighted state.
Mm.
So these are the things or habits which I have implemented it. And I will tell your listeners that, implement, any of the habits which you wanted to implement in your life, slowly and gradually.
Mm-hmm.
And like there is a word which is called kaizen, which has been, a Japanese word which means small consistent change over a period of time.
Mm.
Like, if I tell you that you have to go for a jog, or you have to walk tomorrow, 2 miles, or you have to read, 10 chapters in a book, your mind will say, oh, I don't want to do this. But
Mm-hmm.
if I say you have to just, walk a block more,
Mm-hmm.
which will be a piece of cake, your mind will not resist. If I
Mm-hmm.
tell you, uh, Robert, you have to wake at, suppose you wake at 8 o'clock. Tell you, you have to wake at 7:55, which you
Mm-hmm.
will say, okay, 5 minutes I can wake up, rather than changing your schedule to 5 o'clock in the morning. So
Mm-hmm.
do small, consistent changes, whatever you want to do, which will stay with you for a longer period of time.
Mm. You know,
And
okay, sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
yeah,
Sorry.
and the things, which we should not, which is not healthy, or which we should not implement in our life, is not doing anything. Like,
Mm-hmm.
sitting in the couch thinking that your life will change by itself, is not going to give you any benefits. So
Mm.
do, something, and it will, help you move forward.
Yeah. When you were talking about concentration and meditation, I feel for me talking about this, what habits my focus on emotional intelligence. A lot of times we don't really, if we don't know our emotions or what leads to them, a lot of times for me, I use mindfulness when it comes to meditation. If I'm not able to kind of see what's around me, I can't reframe what is happening. So, because sometimes we're so close to the elephant, we can't see the whole elephant it is. So, I found that very helpful. I do like that you mentioned that meditation is a tool. It's not tied to religion. They have practices in religious settings, but it doesn't tie. So for me, whatever helps, I am all for. A lot of times when it comes to emotional intelligence, if you don't know why you're sad, or you don't take the time, why is these things continue to happen? It's going to impact you. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it will end up impacting you. And also, I like the little steps. A lot of times it's like reverse. Like I want to be good at football. World Cup is today, right? The world. Well, when we're recording this,
Oh,
but
yes.
World Cup, yeah, the World Cup. You would say I want to be a good footballer, right? Okay, the first thing you need to do is start playing soccer or football. You got to start playing it. Having measurable, realistic, achievable goals, then building on that a lot of times leads to more sustainable growth. If you're going to have these big, unreachable goals, all I find what happens is discouragement. And also, I like it. Then you said just sitting on your couch hoping and feeling like, nothing's happening, choosing not to do something, whether it's physically or just starting a new chapter. I want to tell this to my listeners, and I'm trying to remind myself too, is also a choice. A choice to do
Yes.
nothing is a choice. It's not a choice. My wife has this book, Untranslatable Words. I think it's Meraki. It's Greek. It says pouring yourself wholeheartedly into something and doing so with your soul, creativity, and love. I remember this paraphrasing a quote from Martin Luther King. If you're a sweeper, be the best sweeper. Like just put all your stuff, whatever you are good at. And those little stories, and they used to have them in the news when someone used to like make these kind of like craft. I'm very bad at crafts, but they do something and it's so uniquely done. It's so charming. It feel like you understand that person because they put all themselves in the work they do. And I feel for me, when it comes to like this question before, what habits? Well, when you actually invest in yourself, when you Sanjib is telling, and what I'm kind of piggybacking, you're at least for me, like, it changes. It's not so much, oh, I didn't get there yet. It's the journey. I know a lot of people use that, but also accountability doesn't become a bad word when there's a safe place. I used to say this a lot of times, but people talk to me like, well, I'm not here yet. I'm like, who is talking? Is it you or someone else? You are not where yet. Things take time. And when you have grace in yourself, that give yourself time, because at the end of the day, the choice is yours. And I want to ask you, as we wrap up, well, two questions. It's going to be and then we'll go to your final thoughts. What have been your drive and motivation to get up and keep doing what you're doing today? I know you kind of shared it, but yeah, if you don't
So,
mind.
yeah. So the first thing is, my mom.
Mm-hmm.
She's not with me, but she gives me the inspiration
Mm-hmm.
every single day to wake up and do the things which I like. Because some of the days you definitely feel weak and you are kind of lost what I am doing, whether it is fruitful or not. So she
Mm-hmm.
gives me the strength and the will to pursue it every single day. The second is my son, who shows me, to be calm and patient and keep doing the things which is necessary, every single day. Because,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I become too impatient.
Mm-hmm.
So, definitely, my mom and my son, directs me and, give me the energy to pursue what I wanted to do in my life. And the third thing is God. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we have something much more powerful than what we have inside us.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely believe that without the help of God I cannot do what I am doing today.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wrote a book which says the man with zero talent. I don't have any talents, but
Mm-hmm.
I work hard, and God has opened me the doors which was closed. So he will direct you when you think he's not helping you.
Mm-hmm.
So trust in God and keep working on yourself. He will open the doors which will be so beautiful and so humongous that you will be thinking where these things are lying before.
Mm-hmm. And I guess the second question, trying to segue into it, what has been the biggest lesson you learned or are learning when it comes to starting a new chapter, or starting something new? Maybe you never did this, or you want to improve in that. What has been the biggest lesson or lesson you are currently learning?
So the first lesson which I've learned, or which is still I'm learning, is learning is the key to change yourself. And it
Mm,
can be anything, like learning changes our brain, and it has been scientifically proven that if you are learning a new language or if you are learning a new skill, It changes our brain because our brain is malleable. It means it's called neuroplasticity.
Mm.
So, learning is a thing. It can be any kind of learning which will change your brain. Once you are changing your brain, you are changing your level of consciousness, as we
Mm.
have discussed before, and then only, change is permanent. So, learning is the key. The
Mm.
second thing which I wanted to point, as you have mentioned a lot of time, that choice.
Mm.
We have a choice, all the time,
Mm.
and you are the sum total of all your choices, whether it's good or bad. If you wanted to become healthy and fit, you have to go to the gym. It's your choice, or you can
Mm.
stay in your couch and do nothing. The choice
Mm.
is up to you. And if you wanted to become rich and successful, the choice is up to you.
Mm.
So the choice always lies up to us, and we have to decide what is better for us. And if we
Mhm.
don't take any choices, it becomes in a downhill path, and we become more negative if we don't any take a choice. And the third thing which I wanted to point out is that life is hard, and it
Mhm.
has been hard for everyone.
Mhm.
Like, if I see, look back and see my parents' life, they have a very simple life, but still they were struggling at something or the other thing. And I can relate to my life at the same time, because there is struggles which we have to deal with every single day of our life.
Mhm.
And we have to navigate through these hard times. And I can definitely say that my son is also going to fail many times in his life, and it is not the feeling that matters, it's the getting back which matters.
Mhm.
And I have written a poem in my book, which is at the end of the book, which goes something like that change is hard,
Mm.
and being stagnant is hard, being negative is hard, being positive is hard. So choose your hard.
Mm.
Being obese is hard, staying healthy is hard. So
Mm.
choose your hard. Being in debt is hard, being financially independent is hard. So choose your hard.
Mm.
Being a business owner is hard, being an employee is hard. So choose your hard. Marriage is hard, divorce is hard. So choose your hard. Life
Mm.
is always going to be a hard, but you have to choose your hard. So, you always have a choice to choose your hard.
I just want to say, as we're gonna get into the final thoughts that you're, I just want to share with those listening everything that Sanjib has mentioned. His book, all the information will be in the notes. So if you want to check it out, at the end you can scroll down and you'll find it. Any final thoughts? This has been a great conversation. I really enjoyed this, Sanjib. So any final thoughts you want to share with those listening? Go ahead.
Yeah, so the final piece of advice I want to give to your listeners is invest your time and resources in building yourself up. And it can be your physical or mental health, or it can be your communication or writing skills, or it can be starting a new chapter, or your goals and dreams. Whatever you are investing today, you are going to harvest it later. As the quote goes, what you sow today, you are going to reap later. So rather than waiting and thinking that I will start it someday, when all the traffic lights of life will all be green, start it today, and correct the course along the way. 20 years down the lane, you will be more disappointed by the things which you did not do than by the things which you did.
Mm-hmm.
And dream, discover, and explore. That is what life is about. It's not about what I have failed in. Try different new things, learn and explore, and that is the beauty of the life. You have to take the journey of this life, and rather than reaching a destination.
Yeah, and I just feel it's about not um like piggybacking, not about getting somewhere or getting stuff. It's becoming something else. A lot of times we just the becoming part is intriguing because a lot of times it's like uh, the world tells us we need more, but I would encourage you to find out what you want. What do you choose? Take the time to invest, like we've been saying, but also that you're valued not because of the title, job you have, it's because who you are. And you have the choice to say, I want to do this or that. And like Sanjib said, like it's all hard. I could be in debt or I could be financially independent. It's your choice. Now, it's hard. Like if I was never played soccer or football, I'm gonna start somewhere. So give realistic goals so you don't it's sustained. It's something that you're working towards. But at the end of the day, when I discovered that, I'm not gonna be great at everything, but I'm gonna try because I take the time to know what is valued for me. Now it's going to be different for everyone else, but I just encourage you. You always have a choice. Don't outsource that stuff. You have
Oh
that
yes,
choice.
oh yes,
Thank you.
definitely.
Thank you so much, Sanjib, for sharing your insight with us today. Remember to stay updated with Revive Ministry through the various platforms. ReviveMinistryFL.com is our website. This is goodbye from Revive Ministries Podcast, leaving with your last quote. It's from F. Scott Fitzgerald. He said, it isn't merely enough to have the ability to be persistent. You must also have the ability to start over.